Hi, I'm Kate Allison, a yoga therapist in Davidson, North Carolina. Today, I want to revisit the intersection of being. This is an idea that I've started to read about from John Welwood, who's a Buddhist psychologist, and a little bit of Eckhart Tolle too, who talks about the cross as a symbolism of the intersection of Western psychology and Eastern philosophy and spirituality. So the way we can apply this to ourselves is often in traditional counseling and in my social work training, we're thinking about this sort of intersection of history and everything that's ever happened to us, as well as to our ancestors and to society and all of these epigenetic patterns and systems of oppression that sort of lead to where we're at right now. And then we think about the future. How do we plan for the future? So it's sort of on this horizontal linear axis of being, thinking about how do we plan for a better future for ourselves, for our kids, for generations to come. And then we can also put on that axis a vertical axis of sort of Eastern thought or spirituality or presence. And as we root down, that's the practice of grounding, of how grounded, how present can we be in our body. And as we go up, that's sort of how spiritual, how high up can we go to look at things from a different perspective and to make sense of them. And so I want to walk you through a little meditation today that kind of helps us do that, to incorporate all these different axes into this present moment, the intersection of everything that's ever been, everything that will ever happen, the spiritual and the present embodied experience in this human body, this vessel right now. And I think meditation can be a really lovely practice for that, because if we set a timer for our meditation, we're choosing to take a sliver of time, maybe it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, and we're putting this sort of vertical boundaries on that and allowing ourselves to go deep into our physical experience and to pull up into a higher perspective. And I think it's important to remember that that time doesn't have to have any goal attached to it. It doesn't have to be to totally wipe your mind, to be clear and still and free of thought. In fact, that's really hard to achieve. For me personally, often I have to notice my thoughts a lot in my meditation practice because my mind's not completely clear or quiet. And so the practice is to pull above our thoughts and to notice all the thoughts that are emerging and showing up in that time and not reacting to it, not responding. Because for this time section on our horizontal axis, we've decided to be still, to be non-reactive. And that practice of witnessing our thoughts and witnessing our reality can be very helpful in creating a bit of a space between our thought, our feeling, and our reaction time or our response. So it can help us live a less reactive, less tense life outside of the confines of that meditation time. So go ahead and get into a comfy position, and I invite you to join me for a 6 or 7 minute meditation here where we can experience some of that. So for the next couple of minutes, we're putting our time markers here on our horizontal axis and we're settling in. So find that comfy position. Go ahead and close or lower your eyes, letting yourself settle in. Just taking a few moments to notice your breath. I invite you to just notice what's happening with your breath, the sensation of breathing. Perhaps you experience a bit of warmth as the breath exits the body, or a bit of coolness as new breath fills your lungs. And notice the intersection of your body and whatever you're sitting or standing on. Noticing where your body meets the chair or the floor. Sense what that feels like to be grounded in your body. Perhaps you even imagine yourself growing roots, a strong tap root down into the earth from your spine and spidering off into the earth. Roots that anchor us here to this moment, to this body. And as you sense your body rooted and anchored, perhaps you invite your spirit or your awareness to just float upwards. Imagining yourself in this moment floating up above your body, noticing your body, floating up above the building that you're in, lifting up above the town and up above the state or the city that you live in. Perhaps you even float higher and higher above the country and the continent that you're on right now. Floating up through the ethers, all the way up into the atmosphere, until you're floating out in space. Imagining yourself floating free and light, peaceful and at ease, resting in space. Resting in this spacious area and noticing any thoughts that emerge. Allowing yourself to witness those thoughts like clouds moving through the atmosphere, floating in and floating out. Or perhaps like a shooting star, as you take in the entire universe, floating up above it. And as we notice our thoughts, our concerns against the backdrop of the universe, perhaps they feel a bit smaller, a bit more manageable or more digestible than they were before. Allowing yourself to just be in this space for another few moments, for another few breaths. And then allowing yourself to notice that tether and attachment to the body that's so rooted and anchored here on earth. And imagine yourself floating down, out from the stars, back down into the atmosphere, like a feather falling from the sky, softly gently floating back, noticing the continent that you're on, the country that you're in, the state or the city, floating back down into the town that you're in, floating down to see the house or building that you're in, and feeling yourself landing back into your body. Noticing what it feels like to be in your body, sensing those roots and anchors into the here and now. Noticing all the parts of your body that are touching the chair or the seat that you're in. Noticing your breath, becoming curious whether your breath has changed over the course of the last few minutes. And just allowing yourself to be here now, at the intersection of everything that's ever happened in your life and in your ancestors' lives, and everything that will ever happen going forward for future generations to come. And resting in your awareness of the here and now, of being in this body, in this life, in this moment in time. As you feel ready, you could go ahead and open your eyes, noticing what it feels like to be at that cross, that intersection of awareness and grounding of the past and the future, to be aware of the here and now. I hope you found this practice useful and helpful. I would love to hear how it lands for you. Please feel free to write a comment and just let me know what you think of it. I wish you a wonderful rest of your day as you move forward in time. May all beings be happy and free from suffering, free from the roots of suffering, beginning with us here today. Namaste.